you're just launching, you're ready to scale, or you're trying to figure out what's next, we discuss that nitty-gritty, the hard bits, opportunities, and the fun stuff about business, and really help you grow your business on whether you use digital or on live to grow our companies. So we're really glad everyone's here today, and so nice to see you again.
Yes, we've had a couple of weeks off. Well, not exactly holidaying, but certainly something along those lines. So how's your break been?
I've had a good couple of weeks. I've been super busy. We've had lots of fun stuff happen in the business in the last couple of weeks. My big news for the day is we've just decided to become a sponsor for Yolari Foundation, which means Elephant in the Room will sponsor one child for 6 years to attend a private school in Brisbane or somewhere around Australia. And so we've committed to do that as our give back. So we decided that yesterday. So we're pretty excited.
That's amazing, yeah. Jenni. Yay.
It is.
Okay. How does that work? Do people apply and then you go through a panel and choose, or how does it?
So they do that. The Yolari Foundation has been going now, I think, for about 15, 20 years. And they basically take students from, it's a scholarship program. So the students apply to join the scholarship program in year 7, and they get sponsored to attend a private school somewhere in, it's around Australia, actually, not just here in Brisbane. So generally kids who would not normally have access to either full 6 years of high school because of where they live, or they just want to have access to a better education than they can get in their community. And so they take a range of students every year. We can choose if we want a particular state or area that we want to actually sponsor. But I just said, look, you know what? I would just love to sponsor a child. So I have no preference whether they're in Perth or Adelaide or here in Queensland or New South Wales. But yeah, so we've committed the business to do that over 6 years. And we want to demonstrate that you don't need to be, ConocoPhillips or a Telstra or Coca-Cola to sponsor, get involved in programs like this. Even a small business like me can do that. So I'm excited.
It's so incredible.
Yeah.
I'm a little teary at that. That's just absolutely beautiful. So yay for you guys. Yay for Elephant in the Room.
Yeah, we're very, very excited. But in terms of breaks, I've been thinking a lot about the fact you kind of inspired me when you said, look, I'm going home to New Zealand. I know you did some work and some other stuff when you were over there, but it made me realize I don't take breaks all the time. And my breaks are always related to business, right? And so I kind of, on that theme, thought, if I was going to take 2 weeks off, I would probably say I can't do it, right? I would say I can't take 2 weeks out of my business. I've got 7 contracts that we're currently running. I do my work with Anglo American. I've got my coaching. How do I do that? And then I realized the NMSDC conference, which is a supplier diversity conference in America, is actually on in New Orleans at the end of October, November. So we're combining business and a trip and a break, and we're going to New York and New Orleans at the end of October, November to actually meet some businesses, connect, collaborate with other businesses, hopefully, but also take a break from the day-to-day.
I'm so happy for you. That's so exciting. I've always wanted to go there.
New Orleans is one of my favorite places. I went there about 5 years ago, actually would have been about 8 years ago now with my niece on a holiday. We went away for 3 weeks and it was an amazing trip. But I thought, what a great opportunity to combine something that's really important and dear to my heart, which is the supplier diversity movement, connect with businesses from the US, and there'll be 3,000 to 4,000 people at the conference in New Orleans, but also then get to travel with my partner. So he's coming along. He helps me around the sort of back of house in the business anyway. So it's an opportunity for him to see what I do when I go to these events and how we need to kind of show up. So I'm really, really excited.
Oh, I'm so pumped for you guys, and to take him too. That's super, super awesome.
But it was inspired by you because your trip and you saying, I'm going to take a break. I want to go home and visit family. I need to take a break. And I know you combine some business and family stuff while you're away, but it reminded me that we can do that at any time we want when we own our own company. We just need to schedule it in and plan it a little bit more than a regular employee holiday where you just put in your 2 weeks leave and you're gone. We have to sort of work around our customers and our clients and our partners. But the reality is we have that choice and that flexibility and freedom. And I was thinking, why haven't I done that properly in the last 5 years?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. And I would say for me, it's probably the worst part of being a business owner is that we don't get sick pay, holiday pay, um, 4 weeks leave a year, mental health leave, whatever the leaves are out there. I don't know, because I haven't worked for another company since, well, over 20 years. So I think that's the hardest bit, is that when we're not working, we're not getting paid. So, well, depending on how we've set up our business. So it's really challenging. But also when we're the owner of the business, we've got so much responsibility and that's tough. So even when we have a team, luckily I have an incredible team and I've got the amazing Merlin who I can say, hey everyone, Merlin's in charge, off I go, goodbye, which feels just super, super awesome. But also I thought that I had planned my week with very little notice, to be honest, that it was happening. And then I thought I'd planned it the week that I had nothing scheduled as a workshop, for example. But turns out I did have a little government workshop I needed to present. So pack the laptop, off I go. The morning of the workshop, find my laptop won't turn on. So, always a little debacle in the mix, right? But the beautiful thing about that particular workshop, and I certainly didn't plan it that way, but this is one of my favorite topics. And I just know it backwards. I've presented it a number of times. And so I just borrowed my sister's laptop, logged in, off we go. I even had a turtle in the room with me. And I was like distracted by this wee turtle beside me, but I'm carrying on. And it was just fantastic. I loved it. So
amazing. I love that. That's phenomenal. But that's the thing but going back to the point though, it's like, it doesn't mean that even when you think you've planned it as much as you possibly can, and then you look at your diary and you're like, where did that come from? How did that get in my diary? And I've started to block out my diary for my trip is completely blocked out. So no one can book over that now. Only I can do that, or my amazing team if I need them to. And that's only, on very rare occasions. But having that kind of planfulness to go, okay, well, it's not just about organizing the flights and accommodation, but how do I block out my travel? And it was interesting about my diary. And I was talking to a client actually earlier this week because I've got a lot of travel coming up in October, November, and December. And so they were saying, look, we want to do this workshop. We've got an executive program on this one. I said, well, that's awesome. But if it can be on the 24th of October, that would be fabulous. It can't be the 25th. And they're like, well, that's our preferred date. I said, well, I might be in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But I've got such a great relationship with them. And it's so early in our planning that we're like, cool, okay, well, we're not going to tell you not to go. So let's work out the best, how we can actually fit this workshop around your travel times, as well as, enable me to deliver. And the same thing, we've got, some travel the week before, we've got travel when we come back, but being able to have those conversations, I think is really empowering. And sometimes, again, as a business owner, we forget that, yes, our business is about our customers and our clients and our partners, but we need to fit into that mix as well, particularly when we're planning the bigger strategy and making sure that we're doing things that are growing the business, like taking a break, like going to overseas conferences, like you going to when, you're going to San Diego for Marketing World, Social Media Marketing World next year, which is really exciting. Like that's really important for us. And we can combine the two a lot easier, I think, when we are in our own space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking about that. Oh, best I get on and book some flights and things for San Diego next year. I love that it's a yearly event and that I go every year, except for when I've had to go virtually, but still I plan it out. I don't do any other work. Even when I'm doing it virtually, I have no other work going on that week. Boom, I'm absolutely focused on it. So you're right. What we've got to do is literally beginning of the year, set up for the year, what it is, how we're going to take some breaks. Yeah. So we may not be able to do our 4-week in a block, whatever, but at least being able to once a quarter take a week, I think is a really important thing. It might even be, a 4-day weekend, whatever it is that it's important. And like for me last week, needing to teach a workshop, that was fine. It really was. I just made sure I was in a spot, had my laptop, well, my sister's laptop in the end, but it worked really, really well. But I just think making sure that you literally book something out, because even when we're feeling like we're just absolutely pumping it, we're full of energy, we're going for it, we're loving everything about our businesses, we've still got to remember taking time out is incredibly, incredibly important.
100%. And I think you and I are doing this in a couple of weeks. We're planning a kind of a co-CEO day where we can take, it may only be sort of 36 or 24 hours away, but we're going to have that opportunity to kind of, talk about our businesses, look at where we're going, decide what the kind of future is happening for each of our businesses, but we're dedicating time out of our schedule. So we're talking about, 2 weeks in New Zealand, 2 weeks internationally, into the US, but it doesn't have to be 2 weeks. It can be, as you said, take 4 days, take that break. That was one of the reasons when we developed the Ultimate Authority Mastermind, and having those 3 days away, dedicating 3 days. Now, we did it over a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because then people who are in business or in that kind of transitioning out of full-time into hobby can actually then only take 1 day off their work, but it's still dedicating 3 days away from your family, your normal everyday life, to actually reset. And I think that's the key, isn't it? It's not about just saying, I'm going to sit at home for the day and do nothing. It's actually about giving yourself an opportunity to reset and recharge and all those things that we talk about regularly on this podcast.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up about us doing that. So as you know, I'm a big, big fan of CEO Day. And that's the stepping away from the business so that you can look at it with fresh eyes, so that you're not literally sitting in the mud or sitting on the pavement, however you like to put it. You're actually stepped away and you're taking a look with the big picture. Where do you need to make changes? What feels right, et cetera, et cetera. What was super awesome for me while I was in New Zealand is that I was doing some pretty massive drives around the North Island. And it gave me a lot of time to think. So when I wasn't having a bit of radio or a sing along with my daughter, or a little bit of, I love a bit of ZB talkback over there on the radio. When I wasn't doing that, we would just have some quiet moments. And my brain was just filled with ideas for my business. Now, that wouldn't have been happening if I was in my business, would it? So that stepping away is so important. So you and I taking 24, 36 hours, whatever it is that we're doing, booking a hotel so that we're both away from our regular spaces, eating out or ordering in, and just going for it, coaching each other, CEOing each other, the whole thing. I'm super pumped about it. I'd like to put it out there to everyone as a challenge. Who can you step away with and spend some time looking at the bigger picture of your business? Maybe you want to do it by yourself. I personally like to do it with Jenni, but can you step away? And A, you need to have other time that you step away for a proper break, but B, find time to step away and actually take a big picture look at your business.
Yeah. And I think it's also looking at, if for some reason you feel like, well, I can't do that, I'm not in a position where I can go and have a hotel and do that and spend a night away. There are other ways you can do that gets you out of your space. And it might be taking a drive for an hour somewhere down, like we're in Brisbane, you're in North Coast, New South Wales. Australia is such an amazing country. You can drive an hour any direction from where you are and you're in a whole different world. So we can go north from here. I can go up to Noosa. I can go down to, even halfway to Redcliffe. I can go down to Gold Coast or come into Northern Rivers, and we actually get a whole different space. So if you can't do it for overnight because of your family situation, take a drive, find a cafe and do the same thing, but in a different space. So it's about creating an environment that encourages you to think differently and look at the world differently. And sometimes just to stop, like just the opportunity to sit in a cafe with a cup of tea and stay there all day. And I've done that once before. I used to, when I was working for a company, I did it when I was in the company because I was feeling incredibly burnt out. And so I was writing a presentation that we were doing a roadshow process, and I had to go write my presentation. So I said, well, I'm going to come in the office, I'll pick up my stuff, and then I'm off site today because I'm writing, because I couldn't do that in the office space. So I went to a cafe and I literally sat there from 9 o'clock through to 1 o'clock, and I had tea after tea. Then I had some morning tea. Then I had another cup of tea and some soda water. And then I had lunch. And then I had a glass of wine. And then I went home. It was that whole day of it was 5 hours of just being in a space that wasn't the norm, your normal box that you sit in, whether it's a cubicle in an office space, whether it's a desk like mine or yours in kind of our own little kind of capsule office in our house. However that works for you, just taking away, looking at things differently is what we're talking about. So don't think we're saying you have to go on a massive holiday. You don't, but it's about changing your perspective, and you can only do that when you change your scenery.
Yes, change your view. It's beautiful. So when I was living in Sydney at age 27 is when I left corporate world and working for the Australian Women's Weekly and set up my own film production business. And I remember saying to a friend, I've set up my business, but I actually haven't officially confirmed the business name. Let's do a little bit of brainstorming. So she said, okay, let's meet at the beach. And I had this moment of, whoa, the excitement about that just blew my mind. I was living in Bondi anyway, so we just went down to Bronte, which was super, super close. We did it every weekend, but suddenly, because it was on a work day and because I wasn't in a suit, I just was like, yes, I'm living my dream that I can go and work from anywhere. So we took the laptop, went and met down at Bronte, brainstormed for a couple of hours. She left, and then I continued my work day sitting down there. And I must say, back then, the laptop was like that fat. They were very heavy, very odd laptops. And of course, there was no internet. So I just was doing the work, on the laptop, go back, plug in, dial up, all that. But still, it was so freeing. I just couldn't believe, I hadn't thought about that as I was planning to start my business. I hadn't thought about the awesomeness of not needing to be in an office all the time. So getting that new perspective is just incredible.
And it's interesting because we're talking to one of our other business coaches that I work with as a client of theirs, and we're talking about expanding our business to the US, because for us, we know that particularly in the kind of supply diversity space or the small business hobby space, that shift from side hustle into hustle for a lot of people is a real challenge, particularly in America, when you don't have a lot of those safety nets that we have here in Australia in terms of Medicare and insurances and other things. But in that conversation, he was like, well, are you going to be okay because you're going to have to do like really early morning podcast, coaching sessions or late night if you're doing live? And I was like, I'm up at 4 o'clock every day going to gym. If I get home at 6 o'clock and run a coaching session, that's awesome for me because I'm actually at my best really early in the morning. At the same time, I used to run coaching programs with my Canadian clients and my German clients at 10 o'clock at night. So, and what I loved about that process is that during the day, I can just go for lunch. I can have 2 hours off in the middle of the day because I get to choose when I work. And so this is this idea about having a break, and we're talking about having a big reset and taking a break from business. But again, you don't have to do it on a whole day or a weekend. It can be like, I'm going to take a block for 90 minutes between 12 and 1:30 where I don't work. I'm just going to, what I do doesn't matter. I might do the washing. I might sit by the pool. I might binge some Netflix shows, whatever it is. But having a choice, and this is what we're talking about, it's choosing the way that you want to work and choosing the way that you show up in your business. And so for me, I have little set times during the day where I step away from the computer. I used to feel really guilty about it. I don't anymore. And I just go and sit downstairs. I sit outside now. We've got a beautiful pool, which I'm very blessed to have. And I sit out in the sun because my legs are looking very much more like a vampire than they are.
A moon tan.
A moon tan. It scares people with moon tans, I tell you. So I'm sitting out the back for 30 minutes. I actually sometimes even put a timer on because I know when I'm really busy, I'll put a timer on for 30 minutes. And I'll just sit outside with a cup of tea and I'll just sit and do nothing. Sometimes I read. Sometimes I just watch the dogs run around and try and kill each other. It's amazing. And, so that's the thing, is it's about choice, isn't it? That's really what this conversation is at its heart, is how do you want to show up to your work? What space do you want to create for yourself? And how do you want to be in your business?
I absolutely love that, Jenni. Yesterday, I had such an intense back-to-back kind of a day on Zoom. My eyes were feeling like they were going to pop out of my head. I was so hungry. It was ridiculous. And so I had literally like 7 minutes. So we have a park at the end of our street, and my husband at the moment is doing some incredible paths and brickwork and all kinds of beautiful artwork in it. Landscaping, and so he's got a massive team working with him, etc. So anyway, I took a little stroll in my slippers with my cup of tea with the dog, went to the park to see how it was all going, and one of the landscapers is one of his businesses, and he just looked at me and went, "You've got a cushy life, haven't you? You're just like the lady of the house, still in your slippers at 2 o'clock, blah blah blah." And I'm thinking, you've got no idea. I worked till 2 o'clock the night before in the morning. I started with my first client at 8. I haven't got off Zoom. And yes, though, I am in my slippers and I am just trotting up the road.
And I'm loving it.
In my 7-minute break. But yeah, loving it. Stepping away, having a little breath of fresh air, just a change of scenery. And then I came back in, boom, ready to go. And it felt great.
I love that. And I love that idea. And that's the thing, isn't it? I'm talking about 30 minutes, 7 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you need. It doesn't actually matter. One of the things that I love about where I've placed my office in my home, and it was a conscious choice. Everyone's like, oh, put it downstairs in the front room. And I was like, I don't want it down there, because then when anybody comes home from school or work, then they're coming past the office. And I thought, I need to be captured away from everybody. And so up here though, I love my cups of tea, and I probably have too many, but when I want a cup of tea, I've got to go down the stairs into the kitchen, make a cup of tea, and then come back up. So it means I actually normally I would go put the kettle on, I'd go back to my desk, and I'd forget I even started to make a cup of tea. So not only did I not get the break in the old house, I also forgot to actually drink have that, refreshment. So now I do that. I go outside, I might tidy up, I might fold some clothes, whatever it is. But again, I do that maybe 5 or 6 times a day. So not only am I getting up and down stairs 5 or 6 times a day, which when I get old, my knees are not going to like, but it actually gives me a space. I literally have to step away from where I am. And that choice and that decision for me, it's like completely changed the way that I work. I feel so much more refreshed because of those, 2 to 3 minute breaks 5 or 6 times a day.
Brilliant. So good, Jenni. So good. Let's just talk before we go about what happens when you come back from a break. Not a 7-minute break or a half-hour break, but from an actual week-long break, etc. Because I have a little issue that I'm often a little discombobulated. So I can't, for example, I flew back on the Friday, and I cannot then be in the office starting with my first client at 8 a.m. No. So, for example, I had already booked out the morning. I had a client that later on that afternoon. I had to go off and try and sort out getting my laptop fixed, etc. And it was a really good way to ease into it. I certainly could not have flown in on Sunday night and started Monday morning. I always need that little day or two. I want to get my suitcase unpacked. I want to have some family time, regroup. But then instead of starting, boom, 8 a.m. Monday morning, I need to ease into it. I've really learned that over the years, that I feel a little bit, whoa, here I am back. Oh, God, here we go. And it's a moment of, oh, did I even have a break? So by doing that slower start into it, it feels a lot better for me. What about you? How does it work for you?
I'm going to take that little gift, because I always forget to do that. I am a person like you probably used to be, where I would book, as I said, I've potentially a workshop on the 24th of October. We're flying out at 10 o'clock on the 24th of October, and we get back Sunday. And I think I've got meetings on the first thing on the Monday morning. But because I do that kind of, I'll pack as much as I can, but I actually really love that gift that you shared. Because what it's reminding us is that the whole point of taking this time away from the business is to reset, is to actually choose a different way to work. And if we come back and go back onto the same roller coaster without allowing time for our feet to settle, it actually just feels like we're constantly on the same wheel. So I think that is the gold from today's session, everyone. If you're listening to this, that is the one takeaway for you today, is to remember that have a break, help to reset, but make sure you give yourself time to actually, maintain that euphoria or that change or that kind of thing, so you can embed it on the way back in. So, yes, integrate itself back into your life, rather than just feeling like, you could cut that bit out and nothing's changed.
The gap between the break and the back to work, I think that's a little bit of magic. I'm going to finish with saying this one amazing thing. My daughter attended at least 3 times now an incredible program called Empower You through her teens. I cannot rave about it enough for anyone with a teen, girl or boy, anybody out there. It is just absolutely the most extraordinary experience you could do. So, and the parents can go along and listen on one particular night. Yeah. And one thing that the guy said was that every night back in his corporate days, he used to get home, just get straight in, had little kids. It was just chaos. And he never had that break between those two spaces. So what he did was he built a little thing underneath the house in the garage where he had a shower and a whatever, and he would get changed. So he would drive into the garage. No one was allowed to come and see him. He would get off that, shed that work gear, shower, change, all of that kind of stuff, sing in the shower, whatever it took. And then he would go up the stairs, and then he became dad and husband and all those things. And the way he explained it was so magical, because he said, I want to be the best version of me for my family. And
Yeah,
I
love
love
that.
that if I walk in having dealt with traffic and hard work day and all that stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
I like it a lot. And he said, I could go and have a shower in the house, but that way they're still all over me. So
Yeah.
now I've got to do that and then walk in fresh. And I thought, that's a little bit of magic, right?
That is a little bit of magic. I absolutely love that. I mean, that's like when I'm traveling overseas and I shower, I have my plain clothes and then I have the clothes I wear out. My friend's like, why are you taking clothes to get changed on the plane? Just wear what you want on the plane. But the same thing if I'm on a long haul flight. And that's a silly thing. But for me, I go to the airport in one set of clothes. I get on the plane, I change into my trackies and my kind of casual clothing. And then before the plane lands, I will wash my face, I'll, tidy up, and then I'll put on clean clothes that I actually just wore to the airport so that I feel fresh.
I love it.
So for me, it's actually, because the times I've done it where I haven't changed, and by the time you get there, it's a 18-hour flight by the time you've got pre-boarding and post-boarding. I feel like exhausted and I feel kind of sloth-like. So I need to have that kind of change. I need to have that break, but I love that. So most important thing is it's the break, the time between the breaks, between when you've had your break, you come back in and then you go back to work is so critical. And that's the key takeaway. Take your break, find some space. But if you're doing it for a couple of weeks, make sure you're scheduling that integration back in to the workplace or what you're doing so that you can enjoy the fruits of that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Jenni. So great to catch up with you and chat.
Always.
And I'm off to Billie Eilish on Sunday, taking 4 14-year-olds. And
wow. That'll be fun.
That will be exciting. So I have a big weekend planned.
Wow, amazing.
So
well,
I'm taking Monday off because it's a Sunday night concert. So another example of don't get back in super, super tired and go boom, boom, boom. No. Schedule that time away and be your best version of yourself when you turn up to work or when you turn up in your personal life.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for the chat today. It's been so good. We've missed you the last couple of weeks. Nice to have everyone back joining us today. We'll see you next week for the next Bite-Sized Business with Kylie and myself. So Kylie, in the interim, how can people find you?
hellomedia.team. And I have to say, it's that time of year where people are going, whoa, I need to get some action happening in my business because my discovery Zooms are just going crazy. So it's exciting times. What about you, Jenni?
So I'm at Elephant in the Room AU, Insta, Facebook. And if you do that, you'll find us our webpage as well. So Elephant in the Room AU is the best place to find us. And I'm really excited about our conversation next week. But in the interim, you're going to go to a workshop. I'm going to go to a workshop now. And we're going to see everyone next Friday at 9:15 for Bite-Sized Business.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Thanks so much. And thanks, everyone.